Hi, my name is Frank Morinth. Quite often when we do have to mix a trailer or TV promotion, we do end up with full mixes, and full mixes are not ideal because quite often you do have music and effects, and if the promotion directors have chosen another music, which they will likely do, well, if you put that together, it's sort of clashing. So the little trick I'm going to show you is going to be possible only if you do have the full mix and the mini mix. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to work every time, but we're going to process the Yemeni mix by phase cancelling it. But before that, there's a few things to do. We need to make sure that both stereo tracks are in sync, that the levels are more or less identical, and then we'll be able to phase cancel the Yemeni mix, and usually the result is quite impressive. Once you get a clean voice from the actors or from the voiceover, any production music can be used without clashing with the original music from the full mix. The end result is a much better mix, so very advantageous, and well, this is what we're going to do now. Okay, so let's open the session now. So as you can see, I've got well, the mini mix at the bottom there, and the full mix on top. What I want to do first is have a little bit of a visual check on both tracks, and see if I can see some similarities in the waveform. And already, I don't know if you can see, but it's very small, but we've got a little bit of depression there, which is quite similar to this one. Then we've got a little bit of a peak there, which is quite similar to this one. So everything seems to be seems to coincide. At the same time, there are a syncing problem. The mini mix is not in sync with the full mix. And also, it's quite obvious that there is a difference of level between the two tracks. So the idea now is to try to fix that, and it's not too hard. Usually, if you're using Pro Tools 10, you will be able to drop the level here on the side there. Well, we won't be able to do that today, but I'll do it with dropping down a few dBs, let's say minus 5.4, something like that, just in order to get something which becomes quite similar. There's a syncing problem, as you can see, so we can move things around a little bit, but to be precise, for cancelling the music and effects, we've got to make sure that we move things at one sample at a time. That's quite important. If you don't have it put on samples, it's not going to work. So let's have another look. So as you can see, you've got those two tracks fairly in sync. I'm going to listen to the full mix for just now. And
we live in a hostile world.
So as you can see, you can hear all those sounds of the music and effects there.
We live in a hostile world.
So if I listen to the Yemeni mix only, so I can feel that already there's quite a bit, so the same kind of level. So I'm pretty much on track, I think, as far as level. And I'm going to listen to both of them at the same time and see what it does. Now, I haven't inverted the tracks yet, and I'm going to do it now, actually. I think now we've got already, we had a good visual on what's going on, so I think now it's time to actually start inverting. So I'm just going to invert only the mini mix. I'm not going to touch the full mix at all, because we've got a voice there, so I don't want to disrupt that at all. It wouldn't matter too much, but still, just as a principle, I wouldn't actually move or do any kind of processing on the full mix, only on the mini mix. So let's have a listen now to what we've got.
We live in a hostile world.
So as you can see, there's a phasing effect there. So what I'm going to do is start moving the mini mix to the right, because I've got a feeling that it could slightly move towards the right there. So I'm just gonna do that and listen at the same time, one sample at a time. So you'll hear a click. That's me moving the sample to the right. Let's have a listen.
We live in a hostile world.
One sample.
We live in a hostile.
Another one.
We live in a hostile. We live in a hostile.
Second. Two.
We live in a.
At three.
We live in a hostile world. We live in a
more.
hostile. We live. We live. We live in.
Now when we get closer, the sound starts to become quite bright, and all those music and effects start to really fight each other, and it's getting quite bright, and we know we're getting closer to cancellation there. So let's keep going.
We live in. We live in a.
That's getting quite nice. Now we're getting almost start of a drop in sound.
We live. We live in a.
Still like a big noise, but we keep going.
We live.
One sample at a time. So remember, I'm going right.
We live in a. We live in a hostile.
Now it's getting really like a very fine little rain. I'll keep going to the right.
We live.
Can have a listen as well as a watch, but sample movement is not something you see much, but we'll keep having a look.
We live in. We live.
See, now the voice is getting really clear now.
We live in. We live in a hostile world.
There's a bit of music.
We live in a hostile world.
That's not bad.
We live in. We live in a hostile world. We live in a hostile world.
So I still have a little bit of a music going on there. I've got a feeling it could well be related to some level. So I'm going to drop the mix level and see if it makes a difference. Not by much, just a little bit, and see if we can just get a perfect result.
We live in a hostile world.
See, I just dropped the level there, and it really makes a big difference already.
We live in a hostile world.
I can't hear much of the music now.
We live in a hostile world.
If anything, there is probably a little bit of sound at the end there, and I've got a feeling that's because if I just do a little bit of a
hostile world.
That's not bad.
We live in a hostile world.
Now let's listen to how it was before.
We live in a hostile world.
Both of them together.
We live in a hostile world.
It's quite amazing, isn't it? Works for me.